question comes from Melissa. Why are there so many dice used for Dungeons and Dragons? What do they all do? Well, yeah, okay, I guess that's two questions technically, but whatever, I'm happy to answer both. D&D did not always use the full set of polyhedral die to which you are referring. This set came into popular use with the D20 system, which is the system used by modern D&D, currently in its 5th edition. In the D20 system, dice are referred to by their number of faces and a preceding D. So, a 6-sided die is a D6. The number of dice you roll for whatever you're rolling is indicated by placing a number in front of the D. So, to roll 2 6-sided dice, you would say, roll 2d6. The reason it is called the D20 system is because most actions are resolved by rolling the D20. The result of this roll, plus any modifiers or minus any penalties, is compared to the difficulty class, or DC, or the armor class, or AC, of the task you wish to accomplish, or the target you wish to hit, to determine your success or failure. In D&D, you must meet or exceed whatever the DC or AC is in order for your action to be considered successful. Thus, the D20 is the die you will roll the most often. As an aside, if you are thinking of getting into D&D and looking to purchase your own dice, please be wary of this style of D20. This is called a spin-down die and is actually not designed to be used in tabletop gaming. It is not balanced for rolling, and the numbers, as you can see on screen, are not spaced evenly across the faces of the die. In standard or fair dice, the highest value and the lowest value are directly opposite one another, as are the second highest and second lowest, and so on. Mathematically, the sum of two opposite faces of any die should equal n plus 1, where n is the number of sides on the die. Spin-down dice are used primarily by Magic the Gathering players to track their life total, so the values on the die are sequential, wrapping around the faces of the die from highest to lowest. Okay, so the rest of the dice are as follows. The D4, D6, D8, D10, and D12. As you may notice, there is a second D10 included in a standard set of polyhedral dice with an extra 0 digit printed on them. The other 5 dice are used primarily for damage or hit point rolls. Here are a few examples. A dagger uses the D4. The fireball spell uses D6s. A longbow deals D8 damage. The firebolt spell uses D10s. And the great axe uses a D12. Just like with the D20, when rolling these dice, add the result to any bonuses or penalties you might have, and that result is how much damage you dealt to whatever you were attacking. The second extra digit D10 is often referred to as either the percentile die or the D100. Whenever you need to generate a percentage or a random number between 1 and 100, you can roll both D10s to generate a number for the tens digit and for the ones digit. This is in lieu of rolling an actual D100, which are not normally part of a set of polyhedral dice. As you can see, the D100 is nearly spherical, so it can take a very long time to stop rolling, especially on a gaming surface which might not be perfectly flat. The D100 can also be hard to read, as so many different numbers appear to be the face-up number, which can bring games to a grinding halt, as players argue over which number is the correct one. Thank you so much for that question. This question comes from Mike W., who is the most successful musician or composer in history. That's a tricky question, but I'll do my best to find a satisfying answer. Let us start by agreeing that success is somewhat subjective in this manner, because you're including all of history. We obviously don't have sales records or Billboard Top 100 numbers for classical composers to compare them to more modern musicians. And while we can look at musicians that have topped the charts for many weeks on end, or that have sold vast quantities of albums or singles, neither one of these is necessarily the definition of success as a musician. However, in any conversation about the most successful musicians in history, these names should be included. Johann Sebastian Bach, one of the most influential composers ever. Ludwig von Beethoven, who tops many people's lists of best ever composer. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, perhaps the first popular musician as we might know them today. Michael Jackson, the king of pop. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll. Madonna, the queen of pop. Taylor Swift, the globally beloved sensation. Elton John, the icon, Rocket Man himself. But in all my research, one name, one band was at the top of every list. The Beatles. They are number one on every sales list music keeps track of. They are number one on most weeks topping the charts, and they may be the single most culturally influential band the Earth has yet produced. I think you would be hard-pressed to find anyone who would say, given all that any one musician or any one band was more successful than the Beatles. Thank you so much for that question. This question is always answered on any ASMR channel. What is ASMR? ASMR is an acronym that stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. Each word herein represents different aspects of the feeling we've come to refer to as tingles. A meridian, in this case, is best defined somewhat poorly in the geographical sense. It is a circle that goes around the Earth, passing through the poles. In acupuncture, a meridian is a pathway along which the body's vital energy flows. Here, it will mean a combination of these two, the central line of the human body, through which feeling flows. Your sensory meridian, in this case, would be the line that contains your brain and spine, from which most people describe their tingles coming. It is the meridian through which all of your senses flow to the brain. An autonomous response, then, is a reaction to stimulus that is outside of our conscious control. Put all this together and you get an uncontrolled reaction to a sensory input expressed down your center line, particularly in the brain and spine, or, for short, ASMR. Now, what is ASMR? Well, it is a pleasant form of what is known as paresthesia, or a sensation of the skin that might feel like numbness, tingling, pricking, chilling, or burning. Chilling, pricking, burning, and even numbness are not commonly associated with ASMR. Tingling, on the other hand, is the sensation almost everyone states they get when they feel ASMR. It can be triggered, as the name suggests, by any sensory stimulation. Most often, it is triggered from a mix of sight and sound, though it can happen via any of your senses. So, the next time you get that pleasant sensation down your spine when you step on a particularly crunchy leaf, or smell a loaf of fresh baked bread, or watch a master craftsman at work up close, that's ASMR. Thank you again to Melissa and Mike W. If you would like to have your question answered in a video, leave it in a comment below this one. If you would prefer to ask your question a little more privately, you can email me your question at questionsandasmr@gmail.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more questions like these every week.